the lead scientist, he's like 21, 22. And so he was like one of the oldest people on the team. It was just like a bunch of these teenagers that are really into like male health because they see this declining male fertility crisis that's happening. And they're like, I have microplastics in my balls and I like don't want that. And so how do we start motivating people to do something more? And they like set up this fight where they had a weigh-in of UCLA versus USC of like sperm donations. And, like, oh my God. And then they had this like crazy animation. And, like these are the wild things that are happening because people are able to get creative, right? Yeah. Like we're not emphasizing that in conventional biotech, and I really think we're missing out.
Where's a sperm racing to? Like an egg?
This was the interesting thing, is what they did is that they took microscopy imaging and they averaged out the sperm and their motion and then put it in a microfluidic channel. And so it wasn't like a live video of it, but it was all the data from that. They translated into an animation, like an AI-generated animation.
Oh, wow.
And so it, like people were like rooting. There was like 1,000 people in this arena God. Rooting for sperm. That was just swimming along.
All right. So, you know, one of the things that you also talked about in Long Island City was you've been on this global tour and you saw a bunch of weird shit in Asia. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. There's two conversations that happen over dinner in Asia. It's what weird food have you eaten recently? Everybody wants to know what's tasty out there. And the second is what strange clinic did your auntie go to? Yeah. And like that's what's been happening. And then like cultural consciousness, it's, there are these clinics all over the place. Yeah. And they're like, longevity clinics, there's cosmetic clinics, there's like people in South Korea, when they graduate, they're gifted like cosmetic surgery even, which is just like a whole shift in mentality. It's really weird for like more westernized audiences. But like in general...
Except for in LA, probably.
Yeah, maybe
no offense to people from LA.
But I think on the whole, what's been happening is that there's this collective consciousness of, especially if you have the financial wherewithal to go to these places to do things. There's this funny meme of Turkish hairlines, right? Yeah. And so you see these pictures of people where they have hair transplants, and it's because they're flying on Turkish Airlines, where they're flying to Istanbul to get like hair treatments and whatnot. And everybody knows somebody who has done medical tourism because the system in the United States is so fucked. Yeah. And you go around to some of these clinics in Southeast Asia and they were marketing PRP, like plasmid replacement, in Asia in the flight guide.
Oh, wow.
Like on the plane.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And like people are injecting exosomes that are for research use only. Yeah. And like people are doing peptide therapies and like it's moving quick. It's moving real quick. And like you cannot not recognize, like you recognize the influence of China everywhere, where they have, I was talking to a friend who just got placement in Shanghai in a medium-sized biotech research park. This isn't a big one or anything, but they have 3,000 biotech startups in this tiny research park. Oh, and like all of them are working on new stuff.
You went there?
I didn't get a chance to go there. I got invited to this Sin BioPunk thing that somebody was hosting in Beijing, but I didn't get a chance to go. China's like a whole nother can of worms.
Tell us. Yeah, go in there. You're
what it reminds me of is if anybody has seen like the hardware, computer hardware superstore in Guangzhou, or
I think it's Guangzhou.
It's like basically any kind of computer component that you could imagine and being iterated on constantly, so they're being constantly optimized. So if you can imagine that for biology, a mall or a skyscraper that is just full of companies that are iterating and creating all this weird shit, and some of it might be for ag, some will be for materials, some is going to be for cosmetic purposes. You know what? Sign me up.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's funny, you go around East Asia and there's these wet markets, right? Yeah. And I think
where COVID came from, right?
Yeah.
I was kidding. I don't know.
But there's this kind of idea of hardware and software, and we need to have like wetware, right?
Yeah.
Like, we got to have these places where you go to where you're able to play and experiment, because we don't have that right now. There's nowhere you can go to play and have accessibility to some of these tools of creation in a way that is approachable and easy, and you start learning.
Unless you're in Brooklyn. Yes, our friends at GenSpace.
There's these pockets in different places. Even London has this amazing space called BioFabs, where Digby's speaking later today. Yeah. So I'm like making the tour to all these community lab spaces, because these are community organizers who recognize the need for low-cost space for people to get started. And it's a feed into everything else, right? Like, we really have these bottlenecks in biology where you need to go get a PhD. You need to go, like, even the money that you receive for an idea, the legitimacy is granted by a PhD because it's a proxy for knowing what you're doing. It's not actually knowing what you're doing. Computer science shifted from needing a PhD to building a thing and then having a portfolio is when things really exploded. And so I think the same is true in biology. And like when you're looking at the race between humans and AI, we're losing. And that needs to change and change quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, I guess, great call to action to end on. But what about your call to action for BioPunk? What do you want the audience to do? How do we enable people?
Yeah. Like part of what I've been looking at is like, how do we speed up everybody's route to get ideas out into the world?
Yeah.
And how do we set up new systems to make that happen? And so what we're really trying to do with this network of labs is set up new systems, new methods. I've started building this network of contract research organizations and contract manufacturers all around the world to be able to pair like startup companies or individuals. If you want to make something, like there are people with the tools and resources and actual reactors and stuff out there already that are able to help you with that in a low-cost way anywhere in the world. And the other thing, too, is a line of money that is really founder-friendly and focused much more on your experiments and piecemeal, like the individual things that you'll need. Like specifically, what do you need to get to market? And so we're building this more like a studio of some sort, a new mentality around a studio. So this BioPunk Studio to go from concept to clinic. And the end placement is in these like weird special economic zones and like regulatory gray areas, even though I'm wearing black and white.